Welcome to Lesson 5. Today we're going to discuss tax deductions and how you can make the most of your expenses. Our goals for this lesson are: understand how tax deductions help keep money in your pocket, be aware of the deductions commonly used by small business owners, and understand how to calculate some of the trickier deductions. First of all, it's good to understand how tax deductions work. Tax deductions reduce your taxable income. Remember, though, that the value of your deductions isn't actually how much you save. For instance, $5,000 in deductions saves someone in the 22% tax bracket $1,100 in taxes owed. But you can see from those numbers that lowering your taxable income saves you big bucks when it comes to tax time. So it's important to keep track of your expenses and categorize them carefully throughout the year. Don't forget to keep your physical or digital receipts like we've discussed. Next, I want to quickly show you a list of deductions commonly used by small business owners. In our Lesson 5 guide, you'll find this list along with some notes to help you remember the costs that may go into these deductions. Also in the guide, you'll find a business tax checklist to help keep you on track. For the remainder of today's lesson, I'm going to cover some of the more complicated deductions that require a little more explanation than the others. The first deduction I want to talk about is the cell phone expense. Whether you're emailing, posting on social media, or making calls, you're likely using your personal cell phone for business. Luckily for you, a portion of your cell phone expenses can be included as a business expense. You'll need to pull out your monthly phone bills to calculate this deduction. If they list each call made, you can figure out your business use by adding up all of the minutes used for business purposes and dividing the business minutes by the total minutes to get your business use percentage. If you can't find that information, you can estimate, but I recommend keeping it on the conservative side. The next deduction that can be tricky is business meals. This includes your food and drinks during business meetings and while traveling for business. You'll want to record the expenses at the full cost when you do your bookkeeping, but just keep in mind that when you do your taxes, the deduction will only show up as 50% of the expense. Now, if you purchase food or drinks for a conference or a workshop you're hosting, that's considered more of a supply for the event, and it's deducted at 100% at tax time. If you don't want to worry about keeping receipts while traveling for business, you can use the per diem rate set by the government. And if you really want to maximize your expenses, you can figure out how much you actually spent and then figure out what the per diem rate is in the place you traveled and use the higher of those two numbers. The next deduction I want to cover is clothing. This one really seems to fire people up because most clothing purchases, even if they can only be used for business purposes, won't qualify as a business expense. This means that even if you buy extra comfy shoes and an all-black outfit that you only wear while on site to photograph a wedding, those items can't be deducted as a business expense. The reason is that you could wear those items for other events or even daily use. Now, if you have to buy a special logoed polo because it's required by a client to work at their event, or you have a uniform like the mail person or firefighters, those items will count as deductions. The next deduction is pretty self-explanatory, but it's one I get a lot of questions about. It's digital downloads. You won't see this as a category on any tax form. You'll have to add this under the other expenses category. I think that freaks some people out, but just know that you can make up whatever category you need to fit your business. If you purchase a lot of fonts, stock photos, digital images, or album layouts, you may want to think about adding the digital download expense category to your bookkeeping program. Software subscriptions is another category that essentially has been made up, and it will go into your other expenses bucket on your tax return. Here you can include software you pay on a monthly or annual basis. The last two deductions I'm going to go over are the home office deduction and the auto expense deduction. For both of these, you have two methods to choose from, and you should use whichever one will give you the higher deduction. You can also find a worksheet for both of these deductions in our Lesson 5 guide. We'll start with the home office deduction. The first method for calculating your home office deduction is the easiest. You'll just count up your home office square footage and multiply it by $5. You can use up to a max of 300 square feet here. The second method is the one that's a little more complicated. With this one, you'll start by dividing the home office square footage by the entire home's square footage. Then you'll multiply that number by all of your home expenses, things like mortgage interest, rent, utilities, internet, and even a housekeeper's fee. Now, let's look at the business auto deduction. The first method for this is the actual expense method. With this method, you get to deduct the business portion of your actual auto expenses. This includes things like gas, oil changes, and repairs. The second method is the mileage method. With this method, you'll just multiply your business miles by that year's mileage rate. For 2022, it's 58.5 cents per mile. Now it's checklist time. Use the checklist and the worksheets at the end of our Lesson 5 guide to remind yourself of possible deductions and how to calculate them so you can make the most of your expenses. In our next lesson, we'll talk all about retirement contributions and make sure you're planning for your future.